Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I wasn't here yesterday, but I got a quick video for you today, obviously entitled Best Life Now. If you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to catch my last week's broadcast. I really don't want to call it that because it's not necessarily something I'm doing on a regular. But last Monday we did a broadcast dealing with narcissism and personal empowerment. So let's do this real quick. Gave some thought to this. I'm very familiar with a New York's bestseller book by a gentleman by the name of Joel Osteen. Has a church about 5-6 hours from me, give or take, in Houston, Lakewood. So, Best Life Now, again, New York's bestseller. I've heard the messages, some of the messages. It's been quite a few years since he put the book out in regarding to his points. But let me take that phrase and go a different way. We know we live, for those of us who do, live in the United States. I have some on my page who don't. But for those of us in the United States, here it is. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Now, we don't ever beg the question of the original writers, but let's do it today. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whose life, whose liberty, whose pursuit of happiness? Well, our own life, our own liberty, our own pursuit of happiness. Let's just be real about it. Pragmatism. I remember government class back in 12th grade, many moons ago. We won't talk about that. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what America is running on. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I beg the question, whose life, whose liberty, whose pursuit of happiness? If this is about our best life now, that means our best life, our best happiness, our best pursuit of happiness, I should say, then we have to stop and think about this. We live in a country whose history, and I won't get into this, and I know my skin color will probably cause you to think I will, but we live in a country whose history is, there were some people who came here who said their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness was at the destruction of others. Matter of fact, let's just look at the whole world and the history of the world. Nazi Germany, etc., etc. There's a man named Hitler whose view of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was the destruction, not just of the 6 million Jews. Most of us don't realize he killed Germans. He killed Polish. He killed many people, not just the Jews. So what if, when we encourage people to their best life now, we don't stop to think about a person's best life view is someone else's hurt? Have you ever thought about that? What if my best life is actually to somebody's hurt? So here's the question you got to consider. Now, you ready? It's going to be kind of tough, but stay with me. Do you think the average man and woman is good? Take a minute. Don't be so quick to answer. Think about it. Do you think the average man and woman on the planet, all over the world, is good? They are good-hearted people. Do you think so? Now, I've already referenced history. Hitler. We know we have dictators even to this day. So it's going to be hard for you to answer this, because if you want to say yes, if you want to believe that the average man and woman on the planet are good-hearted people, explain abortion, explain women's mistreatment even in this country, I know, I'll make it like this. To those of you who are single, why can't you find a good man or a good woman? If you want to answer the question that you believe the average man and the average woman are good-hearted people, why is it, my dear single brothers and sisters, is it so hard to find one of those good men or good women to get into a relationship with? Now, if you believe that the average man and woman are good, then of course best life now is fine. The idea of the best life now makes sense to you. Of course it does. The pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness makes great sense. Because if you think that we're all generally good and we're pursuing our desire for our best life, then that's fine. But if you're not a cynic, but if you're like me and you tend to think that the average man and woman is actually not good, and that we have too many examples, young men who do look similar to myself, being gunned down. Won't say too much about that, not here to be political. But the reality of it is, it continues to happen now, 2 years later. Sacramento, the most recent. It continues to happen, and I'm not here to point fingers at police officers or whoever. I'm just simply saying, if you believe that men and women are not generally good, that we don't all share that common sense that you no longer hear about, we don't all share in that objective moral disposition. And I get the feeling that if you really think and you're just honest with yourself, that you don't really believe that every man and every woman is truly at the center of themselves good. Because if you do, stop calling the president a narcissist. Stop. You can't call him a narcissist, which is not a good thing, and then believe generally all men and women are good. You can't do it. And I read your Facebook pages, especially those of you who like to comment on our president. The fact of the matter is, in this country, there's a group called the Ku Klux Klan. The fact of and they're pretty obvious about what they say. The fact of the matter is we have to have human resources on our jobs because we have bosses and managers and fellow employees that don't treat each other well. The fact of the matter is we have to have watchdogs even for the internet because people pass along inappropriate information. The fact of the matter is men and women in general are not that good. And because we're not, now take this phrase, best life now, and understand that a person with an evil heart, ladies, a gentleman you may go out on a date with who doesn't have a good heart, he's not looking for your best life, he's looking for his, and he's an evil-hearted man, that date could end up in a place I don't want to describe. But we've all heard the stories. Unfortunately, there are children killing parents to this day. There are parents killing children to this day. And yet they would say, I'm trying to pursue my best life now. Now, I know you don't like how I'm using the phrase, but I'm just being real about this thing. I'm just being honest with myself about this thing. That at some point, and look, I'm not even talking about God or Christians or religion. I'm just saying in general, in terms of humanity, sometimes I think we trick ourselves into believing that everyone around us is good, and yet, ladies, you still clutch your purse. Gentlemen, you're still complaining about women trying to get into your pockets. We're still using words like gold digger, bougie. And yet we still want to hold on to the idea that everybody's generally good because then whatever they intend, hey, you live your life, I live my life. But the truth of the matter is somebody may live their life in a way that makes them feel good and hurt your feelings, or more than hurt your feelings, may hurt your bottom line, may even take your life. So what's the objective of this? To get us to think. This is another thought experiment. Are we really being realistic about when we talk about pursuit of happiness? And of course, we're talking about our own happiness. When we're pursuing our own happiness, are we forgetting the fact, this is why I said, look at my other video, that we're in a community, that this world is a community. We have one race called human. If I'm truly pursuing my best life, I need to concern myself with you. Let me use me now. If I'm truly going to live a utopian life, if I'm going to I'm not talking about things. And I know when we say best life, let's just be honest. We're talking about stuff. We're talking about stuff. And yet, why is it that people who are rich are blowing their brains out? Why is it that there are people who are rich, who are filthy rich? We don't, that rich that will pass on from generation to generation rich. Why is it that they're strung out on drugs? Why is it that they're alcoholics? Why is it that they're abusive husbands and wives? Why is it that they're getting divorces? And we're watching settlements of $210 million and all of this kind of things. Why is there shows like Housewives of Atlanta and Housewives of Hollywood and Housewives of this and Housewives of that? And most of those women aren't even married. They're either on the verge of divorce or they're in divorce court or they are divorced. And we're calling them housewives. Why is it that we have reality shows where we watch them because people are not generally good? Because they do fight with each other. Why is Empire one of the most popular shows on TV? Not because people are good, but because it reflects what's wrong with society. Sorry, I picked on it. I did. I know. And I don't feel bad. Why is it that we champion the very things wrong with us? And then we try to say best life now. Those reality TV shows actually reflect the worst about us. And we love them. Saints and sinners. Those things reflect the worst in us. And we run to them and absorb them because in truth, whether we want to admit it or not, they actually reflect what's actually the worst in us. But then we say, hey, you pursue yours. You get after yours. You get on your hustle. You do your thing. And we know for a fact, if you're working 2 or 3 jobs and you have children, come on. Do you need me to say it? You're working 2 or 3 jobs to provide for your children. Look, I've been a step parent and I am a parent. If you're working 2 or 3 jobs to provide for children, when do you see them? Are you pursuing your best life? When do you see them? How much of you are they getting from you? Hey, Gabe, I got to make it happen. Look, my parents worked and one was walking in the door and one was going out. I know something about this stuff. I wasn't born yesterday. So understand this best life stuff, that sounds good, but I'm just one of those people who was dropped on this planet. I won't say God because that scares people, but I was dropped on this planet to get us to think about some things. When you're getting your brand new car and you're thanking whomever you thank for your new job and you're all excited about your education and about how you're coming up, don't forget the people in your community. It's all I'm saying. If your best life is a best life in isolation, is that really a best life? Is your pursuit of happiness, your pursuit of liberty, your pursuit of life really supposed to be at the sake of your community? Well, Gabe, they wasn't there for me. Why I got to be there for them? Because are you truly at your utopian on this earth? And again, I know I got some Christians on my page, but I'm not talking about that right now. Catch me on my group page. Are you really at your utopian if while you're pursuing your best life, your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and you forget that you're in a community? I keep asking this question. Why is it that the 2 richest people on the planet are some of the most giving people that we have probably ever seen in history? Why are they giving billions of dollars? Why is LeBron James, as an example, someone who came from nothing and he's nearly a billionaire and he's still playing? Why is he insisting on giving so much money? Now, you could be a cynic if you like, but why is he doing it? I don't know the young man, but why is he doing it? Why are people being givers when they could just hoard and be consume? Why are these people figuring out that what we really need to do is be givers? Now, there is a book that says it's more blessed to give than to receive. I tend to follow those kind of principles. Not that I got a lot to give, but I give what I can, and here I am doing it now. So I just want to challenge us to think, best life now, how does that look? Is that really about me achieving and acquiring for me in the ultimate? Even if you want to be in a relationship, to my single brothers and sisters, you know I got to give a shout out to you. If you want to be in a relationship, there's no way you can think about your best life, including a relationship, and yet if you're honest, it's really just about you. That doesn't work. If we're just honest, it doesn't work. And maybe that's why some of us are single. It's not because there isn't some good men and some good women. If we're just honest, just maybe the reason why we can't get to the relationship is not because of what's wrong with humanity. It's because of what's wrong in us. That we're looking at men and women in court like looking at a car, looking at a job, looking at education. We just want to acquire a relationship. That's not your best life. Relationships require sacrifice. Relationships require compromise. Relationships require listening and taking in information that might hurt your feelings, that might not make you feel good, might not make you feel like you're living your best life. There has to be moments in relationships where you don't feel like you're living your best life in the moment, but it is your best life because you're showing care and concern for someone else. Are you getting my point? Truly living your best life, in my opinion, my page, I can do it, has to include, not completely where you just dismiss yourself, but it has to include a healthy dose of true care and concern, not just tolerance, true care and concern for other people, and not just the people who are always about you. How about for those people who may not be about you? How about for those people who may not be singing your praises? We call that narcissism, which I talked about. What if they're not always saying thank you? What if they're not always applauding your efforts? What if they're not always lauding you at every turn? But is it still possible that to live your optimum life, which is the word I like, to live at the optimum of your life includes helping others to reach their optimum? Helping others to reach their optimum. And then how much more joy would you get out of this life if others are coming to a place of optimum while you are too? And maybe optimum is not so much about things. Maybe optimum doesn't mean we go up, 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 up until we die. It doesn't mean we make more money until we die. We just 9 figures, 10 figures, 11, until we're 100 years old and we're at some astronomical number. Maybe it's not, I've got a PhD, 10 PhDs, 40 PhDs. Maybe I've got 8 houses, 9 houses, 10 houses. I got a fleet of cars before I die. I've reached the apex, the pinnacle, the top of the economic, political, social, educational ladder. I am the best employee or the best employer of all time. Maybe optimum is not that. Maybe optimum says stay here, but help others come up. I may never break through the glass ceiling, but if I help others come up, then my life is optimized. I could be wrong. That's just me, just my opinion. Wanted to share it with you. Hope it benefits you. If you like what you heard, share this on your page. If I've said some things that you may want to ask some questions about, feel free to type in the comments. Message me, of course, on Messenger. Let's have a chat about it. Again, best life now. How do we really achieve that and not dismiss ourselves from community? How do we really achieve and enjoy the best life we can live here and not find ourselves giving in to the worst in us, trying to achieve the best outside of us? Curious to know how you answer that. Have a great rest of your day.